Now, it's not long since most of our headlines and many of our programmes were about the environment, but somehow the issue slipped down the agenda for this election. All the major parties do pay attention to green issues in their manifestos, and that might be seen as a tribute to the electoral success of the Scottish Green Party, who fielded the UK's first ever successful Green candidates. Shortly, I'll hear from the Scottish Greens leader, but first, Fiona Walker has been looking at their campaign.
Just come forward and you're sort of chatting about...
They talked cats, slippers and birthdays over the garden gate. This was today's photo opportunity for the Scottish Green Party. But more importantly, they were in the midst of a specially protected area where Donald Trump wants to build his golf resort. The Greens say they stand up for people who want environmental protection to mean something, even when the super rich come along with other ideas. But it's not just the environment they're campaigning on. So what's in their manifesto? They want a living wage for all, to protect public services and to support new green jobs. That may seem like a lot to ask for at the moment, but they want to pay for it by scrapping Trident, abolishing ID cards and putting up taxes.
Whatever happens when the next Parliament is elected, we are going to have to start paying back the debt, and we're going to have to try our very, very best to protect our public services.
Bookies reckon the Greens are likely to get at least one seat at Westminster, but probably not in Scotland. So can a speckle of green in a sea of red, blue and yellow make a difference? Well, in Scotland, they believe their MSPs have already influenced policy, and now it's their chance to branch out across the UK. The Green Party is coming out of hiding.
Well, I'm joined now by Patrick Harvie, who's one of the two Green MSPs in the Scottish Parliament. Do you think green issues have slipped off the agendas of the other parties in this election campaign?
Well, to a certain extent. I have to say, after your report, no one ever told me I was in hiding. I didn't get that memo at the time. We've been working very hard in the Scottish Parliament and our colleagues in local councils as well in Scotland and making a difference. I think the fact that, as you've acknowledged, some of the bookies and some of the polls are predicting the first ever Green MPs at Westminster at this election demonstrates that green thinking, green ideas are just as appealing, probably more so in tight economic times, because people instinctively know that we have to waste less, we have to conserve more, we have to try and be more efficient in the way that we use our resources. That applies at household level and at government level as well.
But you see, I mean, in a way, maybe a tribute to the broader green movement, that actually all the political parties have green sections of their manifestos. Some have actually launched, as you know, green manifestos. But the problem is, for you in a way, that a lot of the stuff that's in them is not very controversial. They all agree in it.
Well, they certainly all agree on many of the things that they are doing in government or in opposition. What they don't agree on is the core essence of what I call green politics. They may have environmental policies, but they don't have green politics. Green politics, is not rooted in the environment first and foremost. First and foremost, it's an economic analysis that says there are limits to growth, that if we simply strive after ever more material wealth, we'll undermine what really matters in life, the things that make life worth living. Good relationships, strong communities, healthy environments, happiness and well-being. And that if the economy is going to make sense at a human level, particularly in an affluent society like this one, it needs to measure those things which don't always come down to money. At the moment, if we strive after ever more material wealth, we end up harming the things that actually give us quality of life.
But the problem for you is, you see, a lot of voters will think, well, that nice David Cameron, that lovely Nick Clegg and that charming Gordon Brown and that delightful Alex Salmond, they all say versions of what you've just said.
These would be the same guys who've been approving new open-cast coal mines, who've been waving through Donald Trump's ghastly development in Aberdeenshire that you just saw the report about there, subsidising the aviation industry, building new roads. They've been doing a few good environmental policies as well, but they've been undermining them at the same time.
But just to get this straight, your pictures, look, if you don't think about voting Green in the sense that you've got stronger policies necessarily in the environment. You want people to think about economic growth, for example, in a completely different way.
My pitch is, first of all, if you want green, vote green. It's the only way to get it. Secondly, this election of all the elections that I can remember, and people quite a bit older than me can remember, this is unprecedented. When a sitting Prime Minister 2 weeks before the poll says, this election's wide open, they never say that. They say we're going to win. This election is the first opportunity to get Greens into the House of Commons and start bringing that Green voice into politics. But also, if we want to achieve the environmental progress that we need, we absolutely need a more equal society as well. The evidence has never been clearer, objectively around the world. More equal societies are happier, healthier, fairer, safer, greener as well. And that's what we need to achieve out of this difficult period of the recession. Let's not try and just reanimate the corpse of what went before. Let's try and achieve a fundamentally fairer and greener economy.
Have you stopped being in favour of independence for Scotland?
No.
Because you don't seem to argue for it in your manifesto. You say you want a referendum. Everyone should have referendums and everything. There's
a very clear commitment to put it to a referendum. I've never thought that this issue should be settled on the basis of which political parties are in or out or up or down. It fundamentally should be settled by the people of Scotland in a referendum. That's been our position for many years.
No, I just thought maybe you weren't arguing for it. You've maybe got some more postmodernish type way of thinking about the whole thing.
Whatever happens when this issue is debated within the Green Party at our conferences and events and so on, tends to be that people start off talking about independence, very clearly disassociate themselves from nationalism, because for us it's much more about looking at local, smaller scale solutions. That's what brings us to support independence, not a sense of national identity, but then very quickly goes on to why 100 other priorities are actually much more urgent in the transformation that we need to make in our society and our economy if we're going to have a life support system on this planet that's worth living in.
Very briefly, electoral reform is now clearly on the agenda in a way it hasn't been for many a year in the UK context, which presumably delights you.
I think it should delight anyone who wants to see a political culture that reflects the balance of views in the population.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Patrick Harvie, thanks very much indeed. Quick look